long overdue update on my 2025 DR-Z4S after my radiator incident back in July. Got lots of road rash here, some road rash on my front rotor guard, road rash here. This is the only piece on the left side of the bike that didn't get damaged. Yeah, we've got some damage on that too. So pretty much everything is scratched up on the left side, with the exception of this and the tank shroud. And the seat survived too, and my turn signal survived. After I got the radiator back, I did some footage of the repair, and I'll go ahead and show that footage here in a few minutes. Before I replace the radiator with a new one, I want to wait until I can find an aftermarket company that has come out with some radiator guards, because there's no point in putting a new radiator on and then running the risk of damaging another OEM radiator, because they aren't cheap. And then cooling fan, I do have a new cooling fan. The other cooling fan pretty much got destroyed. The main reason that I want to do a new radiator is because this radiator has a little bit of a kind of a twist to it. I kind of show that a little bit in the video footage. But with that twist, it runs the risk of cracking the fan housing, because the fan and the housing, it's all one great big piece. With that twist, it's very likely that over time the fan housing might crack at the mounting points. So the bike has been running flawless. I haven't had any issues. I have heard the cooling fan kick on a few times. It actually moves quite a bit of air, and I show that when I bench tested the new fan, just to kind of get an idea of what it sounds like and get a feel for how much air it moves. So let's go ahead and get into the showing the radiator after I got it repaired and kind of talking about it and putting the bike back together. Let's talk about some of my DR-Z4S parts. So right there is the radiator shroud from the left side. I've had this thing sitting out in the sun a couple of times, and I've tried to sort of massage it back into shape, but that's not proving to be too effective. So let's take a closer look at it. You can see it's still got that great big crease right there. So here's a close-up look at it. I pull this piece off of the tank shroud. It slides in place with those three little clips right there, and then also it's held in with that screw. So from the back side it doesn't look too bad, but we have this deformity right there. And then we also have a little bit of a deformity right in this area where this pushed out and that pushed in. So we're just going to have to work with what I've got, and hopefully it'll sort of mold itself into place once I get it back onto the bike. Here's the radiator. It looks a whole lot better. It is still depressed right there. There's really not a whole lot that can be done about that, and it still sort of has a little bit of a curvature to the cooling tubes and the fins right there in the center, sort of, and maybe we just have a little bit of a curvature right in this area too. So it appears as though they had to completely pull this lower tube off, straighten everything, and then re-weld it in place. There's actually a mention of welding on the sales invoice. And then of course we have this damage in the front, and then we have a little bit of a curvature right here where it mounts up to the bike. And that, there's only so much that can be done about that. Once things get compressed, it's really difficult to expand them back out and get the proper shape. So we're just going to have to work with what we've got here and go with this for now. At some point I will probably eventually replace this radiator, because she's a lot better than it was, but it's definitely still got some minor issues. With shipping, the total repair bill wasn't too terribly bad. It was $79.07, so that's a whole lot cheaper than a $300 and some replacement radiator. I just hope that some of the aftermarket companies that do radiator guards get on the ball here and get radiator guards built ASAP. Here's my replacement cooling fan, and of course I was really curious how much air this moves and what it sounds like, because I've never heard the fan run during the time that I've been riding the bike. So we're going to go ahead and get my power leads here and carefully connect them inside. Turn on my power supply. Grab hold of the fan very carefully, not to get my fingers in there. It moves an incredible amount of air. It's actually kind of mind-boggling how much air it moves. And it's drawing about 2 amps at 12.9 volts. Peak amp draw was about 3 amps. Anyway, if anybody's curious, there you go. It's actually relatively quiet for a cooling fan. It's much quieter than the fan on my KTM. So here's all my parts. These are the bolts and the little nut clips that hold the fan in place, and we've got 3 little bushings right there. 2 of the mounting tabs have these little nut plates that I need to reinstall on the radiator. They go on these lower locations, and they have a little tab that holds it in place. And then we'll go ahead and put the fan on here and then use some Loctite and secure those. These little bushings are actually extras. They came out of the old fan. The new fan has them already installed, and they're actually press fit, so they're in there pretty tight. As I've been putting the bike back together after my radiator incident, I have found a few other small issues. So right there, this is looking at the top back side of the left side panel. The black piece is held in place with a little clip on the gray piece, and that piece, that little clip, is broken off. So that's what it should look like right there. So the little lip or protrusion that sort of slips over the black piece, it's completely broken off. And so this side panel fits right up here over the battery. So another thing that I've noticed is that when I was installing the fan onto the radiator, I discovered that the radiator has an ever so slight twist to it, which is probably going to eventually cause the fan housing to crack. So what I have done is put a flat washer and a little rubber grommet style flat washer behind a couple of the mounting screws to kind of space it out and even out and make a flat surface for the fan to mount to on the radiator. This mounting tab, the company that repaired the radiator brought this out at the same angle as that, and that's not how it's supposed to be. This bracket here is what holds the radiator shroud and the radiator to this little air guide. All of those 3 pieces bolt together, and that has a little bit of a forward angle, or an angle that leans in or is more directed towards the bike. I straightened it out or bent it back the best I could, but if we look at this side, we can see how that's very pronounced on this side. So this sticks out away from the bike quite a bit more than this one does. I've got everything mostly bolted back together. I refilled the coolant. So the bike has been running flawless. I haven't had any issues. I have heard the cooling fan kick on a few times. I have been out riding the bike about 4 or 5 different times over the course of, I think, 3 different weekends now. In fact, yesterday I put another 145 miles on it. I've got over 2,000 miles, so 2,000 mile review on it is coming soon. If you're not familiar with the Radiator incident, because you're new to my channel since I have made those videos, I'll have those linked up here and down here, so be sure to check those out. Yeah, so how is the DR-Z on the freeway? I'm going 55 right now, downhill.